On September 27, 2024, in New York during the United Nations General Assembly, when it was Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's turn to speak, more than half of the diplomats protested by turning their backs on him and walking out of the assembly. The message was absolutely clear: opposition to Israel's bombing of Gaza and Lebanon. But what was the point of the walkout? After that, Israel also began attacks on Yemen. If we talk only about Gaza, in the past 1 year, more than 42,000 innocent people have been killed, including women and children, and millions have been displaced. The United States, the European Union, and the UK have warned Israel multiple times that this war could take a very dangerous turn. A glimpse of this was seen on October 1st, 2024, when Iran fired 200 ballistic missiles at Israel from 1,800 kilometers away. Reports up to October 2nd say that Israel has warned Iran of serious consequences. Despite all this, they have still failed to stop Israel. Once again, welcome to Global Cast TV. Before understanding Israel's real strength, it is important to first understand the current situation. The Israel-Palestine issue dates back to a time when neither of these states formally existed. The situation is that Palestinians have been pushed into a small strip of land called the Gaza Strip. This territory covers only about 360 square kilometers, and it is neither easy to leave nor to enter. On one side is the Mediterranean Sea, on another Egypt, and on two sides Israel. Only essential supplies are allowed in, and that too only when Israel permits it. That is why the international community often refers to Gaza as the world's largest open-air prison. Gaza is currently under the control of Hamas, which is a militant group. In October last year, when Hamas fired thousands of rockets at Israel, Israel responded with a military operation that is still ongoing. The biggest impact has been on the local population of Gaza, who are being dragged into this war unwillingly. More than 42,000 people have been killed, including children. Thousands have been left homeless, and the number of injured is so high that it is difficult to even count. Gaza, which was once a city, now appears to be a massive pile of rubble. Israel claims that all of this is being done to eliminate Hamas, and says it will continue doing so. But it raises a serious question. If Gaza's population was around 500,000 in 2017, how can 42,000 people, nearly 8% of the population, all be militants? To escape Israeli attacks, the local population of Gaza has only one option: to leave the Gaza Strip and seek refuge in Lebanon. Yes, the same Lebanon where Israeli airstrikes are currently taking place. However, this is not easy. People must first enter Jordan via Egypt and the Red Sea, then travel through Syria, and finally reach Lebanon. In Lebanon, Hezbollah holds significant power. It is an Iranian-backed militant group that also supports Hamas in Gaza. But who exactly is Hezbollah? During the Lebanese Civil War in the 1980s, Israel occupied southern Lebanon. In response, an armed group emerged to fight against Israel. This group came to be known as Hezbollah. It eventually pushed Israel out of Lebanon and has since become a powerful political and militant force in the country. Experts say that Hezbollah is even more powerful than the Lebanese army and is supported by Iran. Since its formation, it has remained a constant threat to Israel, with frequent clashes between the two. After the attacks on Gaza last year, Hezbollah openly declared its support for Palestinians. This created a new challenge for Israel. Attacking Gaza was one thing, but now Israel also had to deal with Hezbollah in Lebanon. However, Israel needed a strong reason to directly attack Lebanon. Experts believe this is when the pager attacks were planned. On 17th and September 18th, 2024, more than 3,000 pagers and radio sets belonging to Hezbollah exploded simultaneously. Hezbollah blamed Israel for the incident and retaliated by firing rockets. The opportunity Israel was waiting for had now arrived. The very next day, Israel began airstrikes in southern Lebanon, forcing thousands of people to flee their homes. In this operation, Hezbollah commander Hassan Nasrallah was killed. On the other hand, countries around the world have made strong efforts to prevent the Middle East situation from worsening further, and many have heavily criticized Israel. If we talk about aid, a large amount of assistance for Gaza has been announced from around the world. Speaking specifically about the United States, according to Reuters on September 30th, 2024, the U.S. announced aid for Palestinians in Gaza. On March 7th, 2024, U.S. President Joe Biden announced the construction of a military port to help deliver aid to Gaza. And on the 27th of the same year, USAID also announced $53 million in immediate assistance. There are countless such announcements reported across various news websites. However, while most countries around the world are criticizing Israel, Israel has continued to intensify its attacks. This raises an important question. Why is it that a small country like Israel, surrounded by Arab nations, remains beyond anyone's control? This issue has been raised 3 times in the past year in the United Nations Security Council. Representatives from different countries participate in the Security Council, and decisions are made through voting. These decisions are then expected to be followed by all member states. However, on all 3 occasions when a ceasefire agreement was proposed, the United States used its veto power to block the decision. Yes, the same United States that had announced millions of dollars in aid for Gaza. In June 2024, the U.S. itself introduced a ceasefire resolution that was passed in the Security Council, but it was later vetoed. On one hand, President Joe Biden says that war is not in anyone's interest, while on the other hand, the U.S. has repeatedly used its veto power in the UN. Not only that, according to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, between 2019 and 2023, 69% of Israel's imported weapons came from the United States. Moreover, the U.S. provides Israel with $3.8 billion in military aid every year. All of this information is publicly available. Many people argue that while the U.S. calls for stopping the attacks on Gaza, it simultaneously continues to support Israel. This is one of the reasons why the conflict is escalating instead of decreasing, and it could take a very dangerous turn in the Middle East in the future. But this leads to another important question. Why is the United States doing this? The answer to this question is often linked to religion. According to a study by Wheaton College in the U.S., a significant portion of the American population, around 35% to 40%, strongly believes in and follows the Bible. Many among them believe that the creation of Israel aligns with biblical teachings. There's also an organization in the United States whose purpose is to support Israel and advocate for Jewish people. This organization is called CUFI, Christians United for Israel. It has around 10 million members worldwide, including several prominent figures in American politics. This group is often associated with Zionist ideology. It is important to note that Christianity and Judaism are separate religions, while Zionism is a political movement that supports the state of Israel. Also, not every Jew or every Christian is a Zionist. To influence decisions in American politics and government, there is another committee known as AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. It is considered one of the largest and most powerful lobbying organizations in the world and plays a major role in influencing decisions in the U.S. Congress. The U.S. Congress is where major decisions are made, including passing laws, approving budgets, and even authorizing wars. Members of Congress make these decisions through voting. If a large group manages to influence a majority of Congress members and persuades them to vote in favor of specific resolutions, this process is known as lobbying. Interestingly, lobbying is completely legal in the United States, although it comes with certain conditions. All lobbying activities must be publicly disclosed, and no under-the-table payments to Congress members are allowed. Everything must be transparent. AIPAC's website clearly states that the group works to promote pro-Israel policies within the American government. Moreover, candidates who run in U.S. general elections, and among those candidates who receive support, 98 won the elections. These candidates were also given $4 million. This group not only ensures the implementation of pro-Israel policies in American politics, but also works to defeat those who oppose Israel. Their website states that they have also helped defeat 24 candidates who were against pro-Israel policies. AIPAC's support for Israel is now taking a very serious turn. What happened was that, in response to Israel's bombing and alleged human rights violations in Gaza, South Africa filed a case in the International Criminal Court, ICC. Although this court is associated with the United Nations, it is not under the direct control of the United States. On April 24, 2024, ICC Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan received a threatening letter from 12 U.S. senators. The letter stated that they had received reports that the ICC was about to issue arrest warrants against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other Israeli leaders. It further warned that if such action was taken, the United States would impose severe sanctions against the institution and would also restrict travel to the U.S. for the prosecutor and his family. The letter clearly stated, "If you target Israel, we will target you." At the end, it was also mentioned, "You have been warned." The names and signatures of those 12 U.S. senators were attached to the letter. Interestingly, AIPAC's website also lists those senators as pro-Israel candidates for whom funding is being raised, and the same names appear openly in that list. But the story doesn't end here. You must have heard of bonds. These are usually issued by governments to raise money from investors, offering annual returns in exchange. This allows governments to secure funds as loans, and they can later repurchase the bonds when needed. Now coming to the main story. According to a report by The Guardian, in August 2023, a representative of Israeli bonds emailed the Ohio State Treasurer in the U.S., asking whether they would purchase $5 million worth of Israeli bonds. Normally, selling something to a government institution is not easy. It involves many complications and approvals from multiple authorities. However, surprisingly, within just 40 minutes, the Treasurer's office approved the purchase of Israeli bonds. Later, it was revealed that after the Hamas-Israel war began, various U.S. states and municipalities purchased at least $1.7 billion worth of Israeli bonds. It appears that there are not just one, but multiple reasons behind the United States' support for Israel. One of the final reasons is America's strategic interests in the Middle East. As you may know, tensions between Iran and the United States have existed for decades. Whether it is the 20-year U.S. presence in Afghanistan or the war in Iraq, the U.S. has needed a reliable partner in the Middle East and South Asia, and that role is fulfilled by Israel. However, ending the conflict in the Middle East is not an impossible task. Arab countries want a separate state for Palestinians, but Israel is not willing to accept a two-state solution at any cost. Thank you very much for your love and supportive comments. See you in the next great video.